Good morning to everyone. God is the head of my life. Truly is. Let me thank my viewers. Please give feedback. Let me also say, I'm not a counselor. I'm not a social worker. I'm not a doctor, nor a teacher. And I'm not a lawyer. I'm just someone who has been through foster care, group homes at a very early age. And I was adopted in 1978. I was legally adopted in 79. Let me start off by saying I appreciate foster care. I appreciate group homes. And I appreciate adoptees. Bringing a child into your home can be challenging for a child or children as well as the adults. But the key with bringing a child into your home, you have to be patient. You just have to be. Let me also say, I felt like I kept my viewers hanging from my last podcast when I mentioned the 3 homes that I felt love in. I feel like I need to elaborate on that just a little bit. I felt safe. I felt nurtured because I was able to be the child that God had intended for me to be. I played with doll houses. I played with my Easy Bake Oven. I ran around in the yard. I enjoyed that. Prior to that, I also realized that although the foster homes was like 1 or 2 years of me being up under that roof, it was difficult for me. They made it hard on me as a little child. So the places that I went to, although I wasn't there for that long period of time, it definitely took a toll on me. It really did. It was between the times when I was depressed because I wasn't with my grandmother, whom I call Mama. And I felt that as a child. When I entered the group home, as I stated, I was young. I had to have been 8 or 9. I was young. And you got to understand one thing that I went through. I went through the ordeal with them telling me, after my grandmother taught me how to spell my name, what my name was. The date of my birthday, the month I was born, the year I was born. My grandmother taught me that. But through the system, I was told that wasn't how to spell my name. That wasn't the date of my birth. And that went on for quite some time. And my little mind was not understanding the process in which they was doing to me. But in the back of my mind, I knew that my grandmother was not lying to me. I felt it, and I knew she was not lying to me. But I went along with that program because I had to. Not because I wanted to. I had to. I had to spell my name the way they wanted me to. I had to, my birthday was a whole new different day that I wasn't familiar with, but I had to go along with that. In social service program, I felt manipulated me. They played with my mind. They did. They did. So when I got to the group home, as I stated, I went to school on campus because I had to for a couple of years before they sent me out to public school. And I cut up real bad when I first arrived. I wanted to fight. I didn't want to sit down and pay attention and be taught. I was angry. I was very angry. And so I went into counseling. I did. I went into counseling. And that helped me. That helped me to try to talk a little bit out. Then, at a certain point, I went out to public school. The kids was very ruthless. They was. They made fun. They picked on us that came from the group home. They made my life a living, you know what? They did. And I no longer enjoyed public school because wouldn't nobody help me when I go to them and say, I'm being bullied, I'm being picked on. All of those things that you would expect your peers to do to you. And if that wasn't bad enough, in the group home you had den mothers and you had den fathers. That's someone who watches over you if you're at home during the daytime and all night. But this particular time, I had won something from my school. And the den mother was supposed to have taken me out to eat, rewarded me, if you may. But I'm assuming something came up because the den father stepped in. And supposed to have took me out to eat. But he ended up molesting me. And before he took me back on campus, he said, if you tell, something bad is going to happen to you. So I was very afraid. And I did not say anything to anyone. Like I did the rest of my stuff. I pushed it down, deep down inside of me. I did. And so the parties that adoptees and the kids went to see if you would be a fit for their family. It seemed like I was never a fit for anyone's family. And I used to come back and I used to cry so bad because I wanted to be adopted. And I didn't understand why nobody wanted me. I didn't. What was wrong with me for someone not to want me in their home? So, in 1978, I started getting a visitor, a man and a woman. And they treated me all so well. they, at the time, they wined and dined me, took me shopping, did all the things that a preteen would like. They did. And I enjoyed that. And when I got back on campus, the then mother would say, "What did you do, Mamie?" And I said, "We went out to eat and they took me shopping and I showed them what they bought me and all that." That made me happy. I felt like someone loved me. I was still hesitant to be adopted. I was. I had a den mother and a housekeeper set me down and at that time I was going on 14. And she said, the then mother said, "Mamie, at 18, you will have to leave this house because you'll be tracked out." And you would just be out there in Charlotte, North Carolina. Well, I got nervous because I've never been out there by myself. And so her and the housekeeper began to talk to me and say, "Well, if this lady, if you want a family, and she's willing to have a family, go with her because then you'll have a family and you won't be out here in this world by yourself." I pondered over it like a child would. So I ended up having a few more visits with the lady from Raleigh, North Carolina. And each time she showed me love. She did. She showed me love. So eventually in 1978, I moved up here to Raleigh, North Carolina in this lady's home. For the first several months, it was good. It really was. (1979) is when, sometime in 1979 is when the adoption papers were signed. And after the adoption papers were signed, I felt like she had changed drastically on me. And I do mean drastically. I ended up thinking I was in love with someone. We talk constantly, that person and me. And of that year, September of that year, I ended up getting pregnant. And I thought that person would be my soulmate. I said I was in love. I didn't say they was in love. I said I was in love. Now you got to understand, I was still depressed about everything that had went on, that had transpired prior to that. So several months in 1980 is when I had my baby. That was the joyous time. But prior to that, once the lady found out, and I was so excited, she was at the A&P grocery store in Raleigh, North Carolina. And I ran up there just to tell her the good news I had. It wasn't so good to her, because she tried to jump on me in the A&P store. So I got back to the house, and shortly after that, she arrived. She jumped on me again. During that time, she had bought me some clothes. And she was so angry. She said, I'm not giving you nothing. I'm giving them to my niece. I was hurt. I was truly hurt. But then the next day, I got up to get ready to go to school and to catch the bus. And the lady jumped on me again. I ran out of the house, and thank God I was able to catch that bus. And when I got to school, I went straight to the principal's office and told them what had took place. Well, they called her in. They called her in. The principal, the nurse, the social worker, her and I. She wanted me to get an abortion. They asked me, what did I want to do? And I looked at each one of them. And I said, I want to keep my baby. I said, because I don't know where my family is. I don't know where my mom's at. And my baby be the only family that I have. So they told her in that office that she's going to keep that baby and that you will have to take care of both of them. She agreed in the office. She agreed. But that's as far as it went. Because when you got home, it was a whole new different ball game. It was. It was. It truly was. But eventually, she kind of started coming around a little bit. And when I had my baby, she took all the birth pictures and kept them that the hospital gave me. She allowed me to be a mom in a short period of time. And what I mean by that, when she decided that she was going to put me out of her house, she wanted to keep my baby. But as long as I did whatever she said in that house, right or wrong, if I did right, I can stay. If I did right, I can stay. But I felt like what she was saying was not correct. It wasn't correct. But I did what the woman said because I felt like the only way I can get love from her is to do what she said. After that, I went into postpartum depression. I was already with depression prior to me not being around my family. And on top of that, I ended up with postpartum depression as well. I was angry with this certain person. I used to watch them walk up and down the road. I used to hate seeing pregnant women. I used to dislike seeing newborn babies. Because I ended up having a total hysterectomy. So with the depression, the postpartum depression, and then having a total hysterectomy, before I turned 16. Was hard. It was hard. Because I remember going to church. And so the thing that came in my mind during that time is, why me, God? What did I do? What did I do wrong? I almost died. I almost died. I recall the doctor that took me out of my cousin's friend's arm told them, had they waited one more day, they would have been bringing a dead child into Wake Med Hospital. Because I was sick for weeks and weeks before they decided to take me to a hospital. The lady's niece was giving me medicine that was her medicine. And I couldn't figure out, I wasn't the brightest bulb in the world. But if y'all two supposed to be nurses, before I couldn't walk on my legs, why I didn't get to a doctor or a hospital sooner? That was my thinking. Why I couldn't get there sooner. So immediately, they took me down for surgery. Immediately. But I started getting sick in the tubes and they had to pull them out and bring me back out. It was not a miracle of the doctors. It was the miracle of God. And I realized that at that point, that I needed to go back to where I used to go to church and listen to the older people pray. And I didn't know how to do it. But I began to talk to God like I'm speaking to you now. And he heard my prayers. He heard my cry. He did. But that did not help me with the depression, the postpartum, and the deeper depression after I had my surgery. And I tried to sweep it up under the rug the best that I could with the tools that I had to work with. Not what God had to work with, the tools that I had to work with. And it was difficult. It was difficult. It was hard. It was hard. So, when I overcame the surgery, I ended up making a mistake because I wanted to get out of that woman's house. I wanted to get away from the torment, the chaos. And the person that I fell in love with didn't love me. So when someone came along and wanted to marry me, I thought that was my way out. I was young. I thought that was my way out. February the 14th. The day that I was going to get married. The person that I was in love with came to the house and said, if you want to marry somebody that bad, I'll marry you. No. I was still angry. I was still bitter because they hurt me deeply. Don't get married to that one. Get married to me. If you want to marry somebody, I'll marry you. No. No. The pain was already there. On top of everything else, I never thought that person would hurt me more. So I ended up getting married that day to someone I really truly did not care about. I didn't know what love was with that person. I wanted this person. But this person hurt me. So I felt that you gave me the time of day. So you the one I'ma marry. Big mistake. Huge mistake on my part. One, I didn't know how to be a wife. I didn't know how to cook. I did not know how to do anything as a wife supposed to do. And I had a newborn baby during there. I was promised to be taken care of. And that's what I saw. Yeah, they spoiled me for a little while. They did. But as a young mind think, this is not the one I want to be with. It wasn't. Then you done lied to me. I stayed married for 1 year. One year. Sure did. I separated after a year. But I stayed married for 4 years, but we were separated within that year's time. From the time I got married, we separated. And then I stayed married for 3 or 4 years. Because I looked at that person, and he was an older person. I began to look at him like an insurance policy. Was I wrong? Absolutely. Absolutely. So, in between me being by self with my son, it was just hard, especially when you didn't know nothing. I didn't know nothing. I wasn't taught in that way. Um, I really wasn't. Could I have did better? I thought I was doing better. I did. I thought I was doing better. The more that years went on, and with the depression that I had, I began to think about my family more and more. I did. I was introduced to drugs, marijuana to be exact, by the lady that adopted me. Other than that, I knew nothing about drugs. I knew nothing about drugs. But what I discovered, I thought what I discovered, it kind of suppressed my pain. I was wrong. I was truly wrong. And eventually, I realized that. It took a lot for me to get to that point in realizing that even though I was doing it, it was suppressing it for a little while, but I felt that was the only way I could make it through. The pain. I eventually wanted more for myself as well as my son. And I went to Job Corps in Georgia. And I got my degree. And it was a lot of challenges there as well. Because I got it, people don't want to fight, but you have to protect yourself. And I had to protect myself. The thing about me, I'm not fighting over nobody. But I found myself in this situation with these females over a man. And I didn't get it. I truly did not get it. I was naive about a lot of stuff. But fighting was one of them. Because I had a child that I had to get back to. I had to get back to him. And if God brought me over the hump, when I had my surgery, I was not going to allow them to take me out. I mean, that was just simple. So I arrived back in Raleigh, North Carolina, happy. I wanted it, but the whole time I was there, I was sad because I left my child, someone that was a part of me, here. And I was ready to come back to my son. And like I said, I'm not glorifying no drugs, no alcohol. I'm not glorifying anything. But at that time, I felt like that was the only thing that got me through. I know it didn't, but at the time I felt that way. So I ended up, weed wasn't good enough for me. And I needed something with a little bit more bite. One day, 1 week, 1 month, 6 months, a year is too long, but I was on crack cocaine. I got on crack cocaine for about 3 months. And that made me not think about nothing that will hurt me. But what hurt me the most is looking in my son's eye and realizing all I have been through. I don't want to take him down a road like that. I don't want to take him down a road like that. And I ask God to help me. And I went into treatment for 30 days. And thank God for the man that I married, my second marriage. Because he didn't understand. But he stuck right by my side. And I'm not saying the road was easy prior to with him or after with him. But I was determined to work on it and to want better for myself, for my son, and for my husband, because I wanted a family. And when I tell you, family is important to me, I make no qualms about that. You can say what you may. I've always loved family since I can remember being in this world. Family was always important to me. But I had to realize it's not always your blood family. It can be strangers that's family. And over the years, I have ran into some awesome people who I loved and called family. Because that's always been important to me. And by the grace of God, at this point in my life, drugs have no effect on me. God be the glory. No effect on me now. So, I say that to say this. I don't want anyone to go down the road that I went down. It's help out here if you need it, if you want it. Speak to your doctors if you don't know, and they will direct you to someone. It took me a long time to get over being angry with people. It took me a long time dealing with my depression, postpartum depression, going into deeper depression. I had a lot of jobs. But with the crap that I had going on, I'll walk out of one door and walk into another job. Because back then, you can walk out of one and get into another one. But when I said I had good people in my life that helped me, coached me, and told me exactly how it was, I listened. I truly did listen. because it was not easy for me. It wasn't easy for me. And at that time when I loved hard. Whether a person loved me or not, I loved hard. My mistake. But when I tell you that I had good people in my life, there were good people in my life that helped me. That guided me. One said, you can't keep going in and out of different jobs. Stick with one. I listened because they was right. In order for me to feel better, I had to do better in life. I had to do better. I had to show my son something positive. I didn't want to show him anything that was negative. And when I needed help, I didn't hesitate to ask for help because I wanted my son to achieve education and life. And I thank his teachers for listening to me. I had someone to tell me, if you don't ask questions, you're not going to know anything. And I've always been the person that liked to ask questions. Whether or not people accept it or not, if I don't know something, I'm going to ask. And that's what type of person I was. And I've always been that way, ask questions. Because why walk around in this world and not ask questions if you don't understand something? You need to ask questions. Because I surely did. I needed to find out what was wrong with me. What was wrong with me that I could not keep friends? What was wrong with me when I withdraw from people that I liked and that I was friends with? But I was like in a bubble. And if I go outside that bubble, I panic. And I don't like to be nervous like that. So I made the first step in my life, speaking to a counselor. I did. And several others after that. Because I had to know what was going on with me. I had to know. And it was like peeling back an onion, layers upon layers upon layers. It truly was. Because for me, in the early 80s, the hatred was deep. It was truly deep. But I thank God. I thank God for changing me and changing the path in my life. I thank God for that. So we never realize how strong we are until God show you. And I'm grateful that I am a child of God. And I know that if I can do it, anybody can. Anybody can. But remember, education is the most important thing in life. Education is communication and being honest with yourself so you can be honest with everybody else that you get in contact with in your life. You just got to know who to talk to. You can't talk to everybody. Everybody ain't gonna understand you. So you got to know who to talk to. And a counselor and your doctor, to me, is the best people to conversate with. I do believe that. My viewers, welcome to Mamie's Truth Podcast. I really enjoyed you today, and I hope you enjoyed me. Please view and share, and please give your comments, feedbacks. I do appreciate that. Because if it was not for God on my side, I truly would not be here speaking with you today. So thank you. Look forward to seeing you again soon. Bye.